constant of proportionality and write an equation for a proportional relationship. And we've been working on this, but today we're going to be doing it in a slightly different way. We're going to be using variables that are not necessarily called x and y, but are actually x and y. Remember, the constant of proportionality really means just the unit rate, okay? Another name for that. So, let's go ahead and get started. It says that Gary travels 15 miles per hour on his bike. He travels for h hours and he biked for a total of t miles. Create an equation that represents the relationship between h and t. So, this is a proportional relationship because he is constantly going at the same speed. Remember that time is always going to be our independent variable. So this is always going to be our x, and this is always going to be our y, and we always have it in the form of y equals kx. But here we don't use x. We're going to replace x with hours because that is the variable that is used inside the question. And then the total miles depends on the hours, so therefore we are going to have t as our y. So we can write this as t equals 15h. Okay? Because 15 again is our constant of proportionality because it is our unit rate. Question number 2 says Jessica buys F flowers at the floral shop for $D each. She spent a total of $T on flowers. Create an equation that represents the relationship between T and F. So our unit rate is actually not a number here, it's a variable. And that variable is D. So this is our unit rate, which is going to be our K. The dollar amount depends on how many flowers we buy. So this is going to be X. We control how many flowers we buy, and the cost of it depends on how many flowers we buy. So this is going to be our Y. Again, it always comes in the form of Y equals KX because this is a unit rate. And the number of flowers you buy directly varies directly with how many dollars you spend. So therefore we have T equals DF. Margaret bought C clams at a seafood restaurant. She spent a total of $D on clams, and clams are $3.50 each. It says create an equation that represents the relationship between C and D. So we, again, control how many clams we buy. So that is our X. Our unit rate is going to be $3.50. And the total amount spent is our Y because that depends on how many clams we buy. So again, Y equals KX, but we're going to replace all of those with what the variables and the numbers used inside the question. So, Y is going to be D, and our unit rate is $3.50, and our X is going to be C. If Margaret spent $24.50 on clams, how many clams did she eat? Well, we can do that by putting in the cost, which is dollars, D, right there. So we're going to have $24.50 equals $3.50 C. Here we're going to divide by $3.50 or multiply by 1 over 350. And we get C equals 7. So therefore she ate 7 clams. The next question says if she bought 5 clams, how much money did she spend? So again, going back to our original equation, we're going to put 5 in for C because C represents the number of clams she bought. So it's going to be D, the dollar amount, equals 3.5 times 5. And when we do that, we find out that D equals 1750. So she spent $17.50 on clams. go ahead and try this one out on your own. What you should have found was the cost of the pencils, C, is the dependent variable because it depends on how many pencils we buy. And then the unit rate is D dollars, so therefore our equation is going to be C equals DX. So Naomi spent $435 on a house for 3 days. Total cost C of the house rental is proportional to the number of days D the house is rented. How much does it cost in dollars to rent the house for 1 day? Go ahead and try that one out on your own. What you should have done is 435 divided by 3 because it's dollars per day, and gotten $145 per day. And then it says create an equation using C and D that represents the proportional relationship. Go ahead and try that on your own. What you should have found was that the equation is going to be C equals 145D, because C, the total cost, depends on how many days we are doing the rental. Okay, and again, remember that time is always going to be our X. And if Kevin wants to rent the house for 7 days, how much will it cost to? How much will the rental cost? Go ahead and try that out on your own. What you should have found was that it costs $1,015 because we're simply going to replace D, the number of days, with 7 multiplied to find the cost. If Cassie has $600 to spend on housing for a vacation and wants to rent this house, how many days can she rent the house? We can solve this by using an inequality. Going back to inequalities. So go ahead and try this out on your own. The inequality you should have set up was 600 is greater than or equal to 145D, since 145D represents the cost of renting the house. It has to be less than or equal to 600. If you multiply both sides by 1 over 145, we get 4.13793, etc., etc., etc. And so Cassie can rent the house for not 3 days. Holy bejeebus, Batman.
Holy bouncing boilerplate! Holy reincarnation! Holy Las Vegas! Holy mechanical armies! Holy magic lantern! Holy geography of... Holy surprise parties! Holy understatements, Batman!
4 days for 4 days. Finally, for this question, it says to fill out the table below to represent the proportional relationship. So again, the cost is equal to 145D. So therefore, in order to find out how much it would cost for 2 days, we do D times 2, which is going to, or excuse me, 145 times 2, which is going to be $290. And then we're going to do the same thing with 4, which is going to be $580. Here we're going to plug in C, where C is 1,305. We need to figure out how many days. We're going to plug in C right here. So we get $1,305 equals 145D. That means we're going to divide both sides by 145. And when we do that, we find that that is 9 days. For 10 days, this is going to be $1,450 because we multiply 145 times 10. Again, for $2,030, we're going to again replace C with $2,030, and then divide both sides by 145 or multiply by 1 over 45. We find this is 14 days.